Hello everyone, my name is Fafunsho Elias, and according to the title of this video, I'll be talking to you guys on why you should rent a home versus why you should buy a home. And before I jump into the video, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and turn on your notification bell as you'll be helping in making the YouTube algorithm to recommend this video to other people, and they can also gain value just as you are doing now. Now, there is a popular misconception that buying a home saves more money in the long term than renting a home. And why this misconception is there among people is because of the things that they consider when thinking about renting a home versus buying a home. They just think of the basic amount of money that they pay on their mortgage versus the amount of money for rent, which is actually wrong. There are a lot of other things to consider that people don't consider when thinking of if buying a home is more affordable or saves them more money than renting a home. So basically in this video, we'll be talking about the exact things to consider when thinking of buying a home or renting a home, and then being able to find out which one will save you more money in the long term. So when buying a home, what are the things to consider? The first thing to consider is a down payment or a mortgage. So typically, you are asked to pay a down payment of between 10 to 20% of the purchase price of the home you are going for. So let's take, for example, if you are buying a home of $400,000 and you're making a down payment of 10%, so that means you'll be making a down payment of $40,000. That's the first thing to consider. You consider the amount of money you are making as down payment for the mortgage. The second thing to consider is the interest rate, which is also the cost of borrowing money. The average 30-year fixed mortgage rate in the United States is 7%. The third thing to consider is the property tax. Now, the property tax is the money you owe or you pay to the government or the state that you live in. So it may vary from state to state, like it can be as low as 0.27% in Hawaii and as high as 2.33% in New Jersey. So this is the amount of money you pay to the government every year. Let's just say averagely 1%. So you pay 1% of your property value every year as property tax. The fourth thing to consider is maintenance cost. As time goes by, some things may get damaged in your home and might need replacement. So it might be the roof that needs to get changed, it might be the water heater, it might be that some taps are broken, some things that might not even be predicted might come up that might need fixing. So it is recommended that you budget between 1 to 2% of your property value for repairs that might come up. So the misconception that people used to have based on how they look at if buying a home is more affordable is very wrong. There are a lot of things other than the mortgage payment to consider. You consider the mortgage payment, you consider the interest rate that you pay on the mortgage, you consider the property tax, and you also consider maintenance costs. So these are the things that you look at when you want to buy a home and to see if it is more affordable or saves you more money in the long term in buying a home. So for this thing that I've mentioned now, to give it a more practical look, let's take an example. So let's say you are buying a home that costs $400,000 and you put in the first factor, which is the down payment of the home. So we are using 10%. Now you pay 10% of $400,000 as down payment, which is $40,000. So you pay $40,000 as down payment. And number two is the interest rate. And as I said before, the interest rate in the United States for a 30-year fixed mortgage loan is 7%. So you are paying 7% on a loan of $360,000. Don't forget, you have paid $40,000 as down payment. Out of $400,000, you are left with $360,000, and that's the amount of money you are going to collect as a loan. So the interest payment on $360,000 of the loan, which is 7%, will amount to $2,400 per month. Now, the property tax, I've said we are taking an average of 1%. So 1% on $360,000, that will be $300 per month. So you're also paying a property tax of $300 per month. And then maintenance cost, I said between 1 to 2%. So let's say 1% on the price value. So 1% of $360,000 again is $300, and which gives us the total addition of $3,000 per month. So you are paying a total of $3,000 per month on buying a home. There's also another thing to consider, which is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is the value of what you give up when you choose one option over another. So when you are buying a home, you possibly give up the opportunity of investing that amount of money that I've used as down payment, which is $40,000, because you are tying that money, which is $40,000, you are tying it down in that home. What if you have not invested this money in the stock market? So what is the opportunity cost in this sense? If $40,000 was invested in the S&P 500 for the period of 30 years, that is 1995, the return adjusted for inflation will be $449,248. That's representing a return of 1,023% return cumulatively. So that means if you have invested that same amount of money that are tying up in that home, if you have invested it in the S&P 500 for the period of 30 years, so that's going back from 1995, that money will have accumulated to $449,248, right? So if you invest your money in the home, I know the market fluctuates, the market can go down or it might go high. If you had invested that same amount of money in the stock market, that's the big amount of money that your money will have resulted into. So there's also the opportunity cost of you investing your stock market in the stock market to also look at. Now we now go into the cost of renting a home. To look at if renting a home is affordable or not is very straightforward. You don't have to deal with closing costs, you don't have to deal with commission fee, and a lot of other things you have to deal with when buying a home. If the amount of your money, the amount of money that you pay on your rent is a fixed price, and that's the amount of money you pay. When looking at which one will save you more money, the amount of money that you pay for rent is a fixed price, and that is it. Why is renting better? Like, what are the pros? What are the pros to renting a home? If you don't intend to stay in your home for more than 7 years, it is more affordable and advisable to rent a home. That is to say, you know you are not going to live in that home for more than 7 years. Then the better option to take is renting a home. Another thing is that you don't have to deal with the closing cost, commission fee, title fee, or whatever fees that end up taking 6% of the purchase price of the home. You don't have to deal with all that. That is the business, or that is the headache of the landlord. Another thing is higher return on cash. Let's say you have a business that you are running or a business that you own. Now, instead of tying that $40,000 in purchasing a home and you invest that money in the business that you have, you might end up, bringing more high yield returns in the long run than buying a home. So when you are renting a home, you can easily invest that money into your business and you might have an higher return. Another thing is that you don't have much responsibility, in the sense that you don't have to deal with increased property tax, insurance fee. The only thing you pay for is when you damage something yourself in the home. But other than that, that is the responsibility of the landlord to take up. Another thing is flexibility. Yes, you have flexibility. That is, you can decide to pack and leave that home anytime you want. Maybe you had a change of job, or maybe you have to change the environment, whatever it might be. As long as your rent has expired, you can easily decide to make these quick decisions of moving to another side in the country, or maybe your job has changed, you have to change your location. When you rent a home, you have that advantage of flexibility. But then, just as you have pros of renting a home, there are also the cons of renting a home. So what are the cons of renting a home? Sometimes you're always at the mercy of the landlord. If something is damaged in the home and the landlord is kind of slow towards repairing it, so you just have to wait on the landlord. You cannot take up action that you would take as an homeowner. Another thing is rent is not always locked in, right? So the price of rent can go up, just as the price of rent can go down. The price of rent can also go up, and if the price of rent goes up, you also have to pay your rent. Just as you looked at the pros and cons of renting a home, what of for owning a home? So what are the pros of owning a home? It can be profitable long term, especially when the value of the property goes up. Another thing is locked in monthly payments. You know the amount of money you are paying on your mortgage every month, or all the things I've mentioned that you have to consider. Total them together, I think I came to a conclusion of $3,000. So you know the amount of money you are paying every month on the mortgage or the little expenses that I've mentioned, you know the total amount you are paying every month on owning a home. Another thing is you get to own the home, right? This is almost like a psychological effect or psychological relief. That is, I own a space of my own. I can do what I want to do in my own space at any time I want to do it, right? There is that freedom, and people, most times can give anything for that freedom. Now, what are the cons of owning a home? You are tying up money in that home. You have dropped a down payment of between 10% to 20% of the purchase price of that home. So you have tied that money down, money that you could have invested in a business or money that you could have invested in the stock market. So that's one of the cons, tying down money. Another one is prices may decline. The price of real estate may crash, just like the 2008 financial crisis. Anything can happen. Just as the way the price of home can go high, it can also go down. And when it goes down, it will be a very big disadvantage to owning a home. So to summarize all what I've been saying, if you are going to live in a home for nothing less than 10 years, it's more advisable or it is more affordable to rent a home. But if you are going to be living or staying in a home for more than 10 years, then it is more advisable or more economical to buy a home. So that's it in the long-term view of things. If you have not hit that like button, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on your notification bell, as you'll be helping in making the YouTube algorithm to also recommend this video to other people. So make sure you hit that like button. See you guys in the next one.